Hi everyone, welcome to Gateway Lectures. Today we have solutions to quiz day 6. And our first question is, in the figure shown below, the relative velocity of the link 1 with respect to link 2 is 10 meter per second. Link 2 rotates at a constant speed of 90 rpm. So this link rotates at a constant speed of 90 rpm, this link 2. The magnitude of Coriolis component of acceleration on link 1 is, yes, whenever if there is a sliding body on a rotating link, then it not only experiences radial and tangential acceleration, it also experiences another special component called as Coriolis component of acceleration. Okay, and we'll easily solve this question. It is a basic question, but here we've taken because just to show the direction. It's an easy question. Link 2 is having velocity of 10 meter per second. That is nothing but v sliding. Link 1 with respect to link 2. This link 1 with respect to link 2 is nothing but sliding. The link 1 slides on link 2. Therefore, V12 it is V12 is 10 meter per second, and v sliding, that is nothing but 10 meter per second. Okay, now omega 2, here rpm is given, so 2 pi into 90 upon 60. Therefore, the answer, the omega value will be 9.42479 radian per second. And now the Coriolis component of acceleration AC is given as 2v omega. 2v is the sliding velocity, omega is the rotational velocity of this, or the circular velocity or angular velocity of the link 2. So the 2 into v is 10 into 9.42479, and then the answer comes out to be 188.496 meter per second. Today the subject is of theory of machines. We've taken little basic problems here today. Soon we'll be discussing very good standard numericals on theory of machines, where we can learn a lot of concept. And here acceleration component was where magnitude was got. So how can we define the direction to this? So first of all, you mark on the body which is sliding, and suppose the body is sliding in this direction, v sliding, right? Now you take the direction of this link which is rotating. It is in clockwise direction. Therefore, along this v sliding direction, we rotate the line by 90 degrees clockwise direction. So 90 degrees clockwise is in this way, and this comes out to be in this direction, and this tells us the direction of Coriolis component of acceleration. First we need to know the direction of v sliding, and then the sense of rotation. If the sense of rotation is clockwise, then we need to turn this v sliding component clockwise by 90 degrees. If this is anti-clockwise, then we need to turn this by anti-clockwise by 90 degrees. That will give us the Coriolis component direction. Next question. The link AB of the given mechanism rotates at 15 radian per second clockwise. Okay. Then at the instant shown, the angular velocity of the link BD will be. So here we can simply apply instantaneous center of methods here. For that, first of all, we'll mark the whatever links we have, that we will mark with a red pen. So link 1 is fixed, and this is our link 2, this is our link 3, and let this be link 4. Okay, now we'll center all the instantaneous centers. The sliding point, this point is itself link 1 I12, and here it is I23, and here it is I34, and here it is I14. Right, we need to consider two links here, link 2 and link 3. So for link 2 and link 3, we need to calculate I23. So for calculating I23, we will take the circular method. We will take the circle method. In that circle method, we will take squares. We will take a square and mark the points here. First point, second point, third. Number of links. We are having 4 links, so we will mark 4. If we are having 5 links, then we'll we'll draw a pentagon inside the circle. If we are having only 3 links, then we'll draw a triangle. 3 links, no need of drawing. Minimum it should start from 4 links. Okay, for 4 links we'll draw this. For 5 links we can do. For 6 links, be any number starting from 4. We can draw a circle method. So as per the circle method, if you have to calculate I23, nothing but if you have to. Sorry, your I23 was known to us. This is our I23 value. We need to calculate, and I12 was known. I23 was known. I13 is not known. So we need to calculate I13. This is I13, that is we need to calculate. So we need to calculate I13. So for I13, how many ways can we move? One way we can move from I1 to 2 and I2 to 3. So I12 and I23. And the other ways is I14 and I43. Right. So there are 2 ways. So now joining I12, I23. We'll join by a green line. This is our I12 and I23. This is our green line. And next I14 and I43. This is our 14 and 43. This is the point where we located I13. Now we will apply relative velocity method here. By that, omega 2 into I12 I23 is equal to omega 3 I13 I23. The distance, nothing but velocity of one point with respect to other will be perpendicular, so that we are applying V is equal to R omega, and that R is nothing but the distance between the instantaneous centers. So in the question, omega 2 was known, link to omega 2 was known. We need to calculate omega 3, and I12 23 distance is also known. So first of all, omega 2 is nothing but 15 into I12 23 distance is this distance 0.2, that is equal to omega 3 we need to calculate, and I13 I22, the distance between I13 and I13 and I23 is this distance, nothing but 0.25. By substituting that omega 3, we will get the value as 12 radian per second, and this is our answer. Going to next question. An epicyclic gate train is shown in the figure below. The number of teeth on gear A and B are 80 and 200. So on gear A, number of teeth are 80. On gear B, number of teeth are 200. The speed of the arm small a, if gear A rotates at 100 rpm clockwise. 100 rpm clockwise, we will make it sense positive here for clockwise. So we will see if A rotates clockwise and A and C are external gearing, then C rotates anti-clockwise. Right. Similarly, A and D are external gearing. So if A rotates clockwise, D rotates anti-clockwise. And C and B or D and B, they are internal gearing. Therefore, if C rotates anti-clockwise, B rotates anti-clockwise. But actually here in this question, it is said that B is fixed. So NB is equal to 0. Right. And this gate train is called as planetary gate train. Planetary gate train. And if you can observe here, B and C are in mesh. Therefore, module for B and module for C will be equal. Similarly, C and A are in mesh. Therefore, module for C and module for A is equal. In the similar way, A and D are in mesh. Therefore, module for A and module for D are equal. And similarly, D and B are in mesh. Therefore, module for D and module for B are equal. Finally, we will be knowing that module for A is equal to module for B is equal to module for C is equal to module for D. All the gates have same module. Since all the gates have same module, we can apply center distance method or center distances by using center distances. C and D are identical gates. Therefore, 2 times of RC plus RA is nothing but RB. Okay. And here, since modules are equal, directly we can write 2 into TC plus TA is equal to TB. Right. In the question, TA was known 80, TB was known 200. 80 and 200 were known. From that, we will get the value of TC is equal to 80, that is nothing but equal to TD. Right, now we'll simplify this by using the table method. This is our table method, and first column will be motions or movements. We can call them as motions or movements. And the second column is arm always. And the third column should be decided in such a way that it should be on the arm and it should not be connected, and it should be taken in such a way that by taking that gear, all the other gears should be interrelated between them. We should not come back again. We should interrelate between them. Suppose if we take here A, if you consider A, C, B here, if you move in a straight line from A, you will be going with A and then C and then B. Similarly, if you go in this way, it is A and then D and then B. But if you start from C, you will be traveling again with D. D is a similar gear, so we should not travel in that way. So we will be taking A, which is interconnected with arm, and for that A, C and D both were attached externally, and for that C and D are the internal to the gear B. Right, now we will write all the values of teeth given. A number of teeth on A was given as, in the question, 80. Here we have a small correction, this is 16. Right, and number TA was given as 80, TB was 200, and TC, TD were 60. So this were TA was 80, TC and TD we calculated that we got as 60, and this was 200. Now initially motion in arm to be fixed. Arm is fixed and A rotate by X clockwise. Clockwise sense we have taken positive, so X clockwise. So arm is fixed. Why will in the first step we'll fix the arm? Because if arm is not fixed, all the gears will be rotating about the arm. There, every time the center distance between two gears O1 and O2 keeps on moving, then we can't apply law of gearing here. So to apply law of gearing, we fix the arm. Right, once we fix the arm velocity, arm rotation will be 0, and A we have taken it as positive X, and by law of gearing, NA TA is equal to NC TC. From that we can get NC as TA upon TC into NA. NA is positive X, but A, the C and D gears are external to A, therefore this will be anti-clockwise direction. So minus of X into TA upon TC. TA is 80 upon 60. Similarly, when we come to B, C and D are internal to B, so it will have the same sign as what we have with C and D. Minus X into 80 upon 60 into 60 upon 200. We can simply simplify them 4 times, 3 times, 60 cancels. This will be 2 times and this will be 5 times. So then finally, now here arm rotate by plus y. So arm will be plus y, this will be x plus y, this will be y minus 4x by 3, and this will be y minus 2x upon 5. In the question it was given NA is equal to 100. So NA is nothing but x plus y. This is our first condition. Similarly, NB is said to be 0, nothing but y minus 2x upon 5. This is said to be 0. Now by solving these both, we will get the value of x as 500 upon 7, nothing but 71.42 RPM. Since we got positive, it is clockwise. Y is equal to, so the sign we have taken is correct. Y is equal to 28.57142, and this y is nothing but equal to the arm velocity n small a. Okay, arm velocity is n small a, and that is nearly equal to 28.6 RPM clockwise. So that is our answer. In the question we were asked to calculate the speed of the arm A. So it is 28.6 rpm. And the fourth question here, turning movement diagram for a multi-cylinder engine has been drawn to a vertical scale of 1 mm, that is equal to 650 Newton meter, and the horizontal scale of 1 mm is equal to 4.5 degrees. The areas above and below mean torque line are, the areas were given above and below. We are asked to calculate maximum fluctuation of energy. The maximum fluctuation of energy is nothing but E max minus E min. Fluctuation is nothing but maximum minus minimum. So we can initially draw the curve here, T theta diagram here. By observing the data, this is our T theta diagram. T is here and theta is here, and the horizontal scale T is given as 650 Newton meter. 1 mm is equal to, and here theta on the horizontal, this is the vertical square, and the horizontal square theta is given as 4.5 degrees, nothing but 4.5 into pi by 180 radians, right? And as per the given data, first let this point be some A. So at A it starts, and here in the first we got the value as minus 28 negative, and then plus 380, and then plus 260, minus 260, and then plus 310, minus 300, plus 242, minus 380, plus 265, minus 229, and ends there. Ends again on point. Okay, and this line is our mean torque, right? Let this point be A. This is B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and here from at this point cycle completes, and this is again A. Okay, we'll indicate all the values here. This is 28, this is 380, and this is 260, and this is 310, 300, 242, 380, 265, 229. Okay, this was here cycle ends again, it will be on the mean torque line, nothing but value A. Let we can assume energy at A equal to 0, or at least we can assume some value E, because even at point A it is having some torque, therefore energy is not 0. So let assume, for numerical purpose we can assume it as 0 and we can just proceed, but generally energy at A is not equal to 0. So energy at A is, let that be some value E. Now we will calculate energy at B, nothing but E minus 28. So let us assume energy at A as E, because it is having some mean torque even at point A. So E at A is equal to E. Then E at B is E minus 28. E at C is E minus 28 plus 380. E plus 352. Next E at D, E at E, E at F, E at G, E at H, E at I, and again E at A. We'll calculate each and every value. E at D is E plus 352 minus 60, minus 260. So it is E plus 92. Similarly, E at E, E plus 92, E at E, E plus 92 plus 310. E at C is E plus 352. E at D is E plus 352 minus 260. E plus E is E plus 92 plus 310. Nothing but 304. 402. E at E is 402. Similarly, E at F, it will be E plus 102 minus 3. E plus 402 minus 300. E at G will be E plus 344. E at H will be E minus 36. E at I will be E plus 229, and E at A will be again at, when the cycle finishes at A will be E plus 229 minus 229, and it will be again finally E. Therefore our initial value and the final value in the cycle are equal. Therefore our cycle completes, and if you can observe all the data, the maximum value of energy we are obtaining at E, and also the minimum value we are obtaining at E at H. Okay, now maximum fluctuation of energy, maximum fluctuation of energy here, nothing but delta E max, that is nothing but E max minus E min, and E max we got it at EE, nothing but E plus 402 minus of E minus 36, and also these all units were in meter square, mm square, and when we multiply with vertical and horizontal scales, it will be 650 Newton meter into 4.5 into pi by 180, and finally we will get the value of maximum fluctuation of energy as 22360.28 joules. This is our answer. Moving on to next question. A torsion pendulum with a disc. So this is a case of torsional vibration, and with a disc having moment of inertia of 0.05 kg meter square is immersed in a viscous fluid. So whenever we find the term viscous, then it is a case of damping. If a fluid is having viscosity, then it will have a kinetic energy loss. Kinetic viscosity, there will be kinetic energy loss. Therefore it is nothing but the case of damping. It will have a kinetic friction, which in not kinetic velocity, it will have kinetic friction, which in turn reduces the energy, nothing but it creates damping. So this is a case of damping system and also torsional vibration. Viscous fluid as shown in the diagram. During vibrations of pendulum, the observed amplitudes on the same side of neutral axis of successive cycle. So whenever this starts rotating, or this starts this is a torsional pendulum, right? What does a torsional pendulum does? We give a rotation to this disc and leave, so that it starts vibrating. So about its neutral axis, it vibrate in this way again and in this way. So it starts a torsional vibration. So in one side they measured the magnitudes of the amplitudes. So in the first cycle there was some amplitude, and they observed that in the second cycle the amplitude got decayed by 50%. So what does that mean? Let's suppose on the first cycle the amplitude be theta 1, okay, and then the second cycle amplitude is theta 2, and it is said that it is decayed by 50% from the previous cycle. Therefore it is theta 1 upon 2. So when we write the decrement ratio, here the amplitude decrement ratio, and it anyway always ratio is nothing but second term upon first term. But here where it's being decayed, we calculate it for first term upon second term. So it is theta 1 upon 2. Nothing but theta 1 upon theta 2, that is nothing but theta 1 by theta 2 value is theta 1 by 2. So this will be getting as 2. So the decrement ratio, the amplitude decrement ratio is 2. We are set to calculate the damping factor zeta, right? So to calculate damping factor, only way is we have to know the value of logarithmic decrement ratio. Okay, when logarithmic decrement ratio is known, we know that logarithmic decrement ratio is nothing but 2 pi zeta upon root over 1 minus zeta square. Therefore this decrement ratio we need to convert to logarithmic decrement ratio. So we know that decrement ratio theta 1 upon theta 2 is nothing but logarithmic decrement mean e power delta, and this value is nothing but we got it as 2. And from here we taking e power delta is equal to 2, apply log on both sides, natural logarithm, then delta is equal to ln 2. Okay, this is the logarithmic decrement ratio of amplitudes, logarithmic decrement ratio of amplitudes, and this ln2 is nothing but 2 pi zeta upon root over 1 minus zeta square, right? When we simplify this, ln2 is nothing but 0.121700, and we square it on both sides. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take ln2 on this side and 1 minus zeta square on this side, that is equal to 2 pi zeta. Again, ln2 upon 2 pi into root over 1 minus zeta square is equal to zeta. We square on both sides to make the simplification fastly. Then we will get it as 0.012170017 into 1 minus zeta square is equal to zeta square. Now we will simplify this. We get the value of zeta as 0.1096, and this is our answer for damping factor. The zeta is called as damping factor, and it has no units because zeta is equal to damping coefficient upon critical damping coefficient. Both were having the same units, therefore the damping factor doesn't have any unit. And these were the questions for today. Thanks for watching. These are all basic questions, but we almost covered many topics in this theory of machines. Later on we will discuss many complicated mechanisms also. Stay tuned.